This sweetener lowers glucose and could even be an alternative to a GLP-1 receptor agonist, like semaglutide. Now, full disclaimer, it's not gonna replace semaglutide, okay? Like that is a full-blown drug that is going to have its own effect. It's very potent, but the reason that I'm doing this video is maybe there's places we can start first before having to go that route. We're seeing a lot of interesting stuff coming out about semaglutide, where it may not be as safe as we thought it was. It may not be good for normal, healthy people that just want to lose weight. So maybe there's a different direction we can go, especially when we understand that semaglutide's purpose is not to help you lose weight. Semaglutide's purpose is to help you restore your glucose levels and help restore insulin function in, well, metabolically dysfunctional people. So how can we lower glucose with this sweetener? Well, let's dive in.
Now, I'm pretty stoked to announce too that for the last couple of years, I have been working with Thrive Market on creating my own product with them. And we decided a couple years back that a good nut butter would be the perfect product to team up on. So my nut butter has officially launched. So there's a couple of different ones. There's a macadamia nut, there's a cinnamon Brazil nut, which is sweet and tastes amazing, that's sweetened with allulose. And there's a chocolate hazelnut flavor, which is amazing. And they're going to abide by my rules too. There's a few different nuts in them, and then there's some allulose, and there's some salt. There's no fillers, there's no weird stuff. And the cool thing is, if you get them through Thrive Market using that link down below, you'll save 30% off your entire grocery order, which also includes my nut butters. Plus you get a $60 free gift when you use that link. So you use that link down below, and then you can find the nut butters there on the website, and you can try whatever different flavor you want. I highly recommend you check them out. I created them in tandem with Thrive Market, so what you're getting is literally what I formulated and what I made. So definitely check them out. And if you're already a Thrive Market member, I'll put a link down below in the description that's specifically for a Thrive Market member that goes directly to that page as well.
Okay, I'm gonna give you the name of the sweetener because I know that some people just are antsy and wanna know it. It's allulose, but you should hear this out because I'm gonna also give you ways that you can use it properly, but I'm gonna explain the mechanisms first and some really cool research. Okay, mechanistically, here's what happens. Allulose is very similar to glucose and fructose in terms of molecular structure. So we've seen in early research that allulose can actually occupy the receptor, or occupy the transporter rather, for fructose. What that means is that it's going to inhibit the absorption of fructose from the intestinal tract, which means it'll lower the amount of fructose that gets into the bloodstream. That's really, really cool. But then we start seeing other research that shows that it actually competes with glucose for the GLUT2 receptor, which means it not only blocks fructose from getting into the bloodstream, it can block glucose from getting into the bloodstream, which is why it's so evident in lots of bodies of research that when allulose is added, we see postprandial glucose being lower. Like if you had allulose along with some carbs, you might actually end up flatlining with your glucose levels and not have a big spike. It's that potent, but let's talk GLP-1 specifically because there's some really cool research here. Now, it was published in Biochemistry and Biophysical Research Communications, and full disclaimer, it's rodent model stuff, but it's newer research and we need to look at it as such, okay? It took a look at rodents and it gave them 0.5 grams up to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight of allulose. And in a dose-dependent fashion, 2 hours after ingestion, it increased GLP-1 significantly. More than glucose, more than fructose, more than dextrin. It was so much so that the researchers considered it a potent stimulator of GLP-1. The researchers even said that it could restrict overeating in these rodents. Now, why is that so important to know specifically? Well, one, yeah, it's great that we're not going to overeat, but we have to remember that it's not the job of GLP-1 to prevent overeating. No, in fact, that effect usually only comes in when it's a really high amount. The reason that GLP-1 helps people lose weight is because in a pharmaceutical form, it's going to modulate glucose, it's going to restore insulin function, so the glucose is going to come back down, inflammation is going to potentially reduce, appetite's going to simply reduce as a result of restored hormonal communication and leptin and ghrelin and this proper signaling. So it's all sort of a side effect of it. When you start taking high amounts of it, people actually get nauseous and lose their appetite altogether because it's just flat out too much. The idea that allulose could be potentially used to restrict overfeeding is a very strong indicator of what a potent stimulator it is. So how do we use it? First and foremost, add allulose to fruit. Why? Because fruit is high in fructose. If you're worried about over-consuming fructose, allulose is going to prevent the absorption of some of that fructose. Not all of it, but it might reduce the negative impact. You don't need to add it to berries. Berries are so low in fructose and so low in carbohydrates anyway, but if you're having like tropical fruits, or you're making a tropical fruit smoothie, like when you have maybe banana, you have pineapple, you have mango, papaya, whatever, use some allulose as your sweetener. That way you're getting the actual benefit from the polyphenols of the fruit, the carotenoids, the flavonoids, all that stuff, but without the fructose, right? Now, as far as carbohydrates, you might want to use it in baking, or what I've literally even done before is if I'm having like any kind of lower carb cereal or something like that, I'll use raw milk and then I'll put a little bit of allulose in it to sweeten it up. Okay, so like I'll use maybe like a tapioca starch type cereal. Like this isn't a plug for them, but like the Three Wishes has an unflavored tapioca starch and chickpea flour cereal. So it's super low glycemic, but it's not sweet. So I'll use a little bit of raw milk and then I'll put a little bit of allulose to sweeten the milk. So now the cereal tastes sweet, but I'm getting a lower carbohydrate impact from it because now I'm kind of blocking some of the glucose transport. The other thing you might want to consider doing is having it at night. I say this because if you have carbohydrates at night and you just have a small dose of allulose, you can reduce that glycemic effect and it might help you sleep better because you don't have this blood sugar modulation effect going on throughout the night. So that way, by just making something with carbohydrates and then adding allulose even on the side as quote unquote supplemental could have an impact on your sleep. Anyway, exciting new research that we can see. I'll see you tomorrow.